Each school has a set amount of money to spend all year long. So imagine, out of the blue, you're told that your school administrators have decided to use that money to give our teachers guns to protect the students in case of emergency. By using these funds for that purpose, they have decided to cut your favorite sports and extracurricular activities. This doesn't sound too appealing, now does it? Arming teachers is very expensive and very dangerous due to the fact that not all teachers are mentally stable and kids get their hands on everything. To begin, giving teachers guns comes at a high cost. According to Washington Post, there are approximately 3.6 million teachers all across the world. The article also estimates that a Glock G17, the world's most popular handgun, costs about $500. So overall, that would cost the government around $1.8 billion just to buy a single weapon for each teacher. This does not include the handgun safety training. That sounds like an outrageous amount of money now, doesn't it? And it is. So to put those numbers in perspective, I crunched the numbers personally as if we were going to arm the teachers at my high school. We have about 60 teachers here at Brownsboro High School, which means that if we used the cost that was estimated by Washington Post, $500, that it would bring our school alone to a total of $30,000 without proper training that a teacher needs to know how to properly handle the guns that they would be using. If you add in the necessary training, that brings national cost up to $2.16 billion and the cost of my school up to $36,000. If the schools are having to use this much money on arming our teachers, then how are they supposed to pay for our actual educational programs? Another reason arming teachers isn't a good idea is because teachers may not be mentally stable enough to handle a gun. Teachers, just like everyone else, go through things at home that no one knows about. This can cause an educator to break or act out for seemingly no reason. For example, LA Times reported on a story about Jesse Randall Davidson, who was a social studies teacher at Dalton High School in Georgia. Davidson had brought a gun onto campus, barricaded himself in his room, and proceeded to fire one shot out of his classroom window after yelling at his students to get out. In the report, they stated that no one was for sure what caused him to lash out, but they assumed it was something personal. Chauncey Chastain, a 16-year-old student at the school, said in short, "He was nice and funny and a great teacher, but you never know what is going on inside a person's head." Though no one was injured in this specific incident, it helps show that by giving an unknowingly mentally ill teacher a gun to begin with, you put the students at risk if the teachers get too stressed out or get to their breaking point. Finally, and probably most importantly, is it is unsafe for a weapon to even be in the room with a child present. Children or even teenagers like to get their hands on everything. While I was younger, my parents hid my Christmas presents and told me if I found them, because I snooped around, then I wouldn't get them at all. Me being a curious young child, I decided to search the entire house anyways because I wanted to know what my gifts were. Though this isn't nearly as serious, it goes to show that children are curious and will search until they find what they desire. For example, a group at the American Academy of Pediatrics did an experiment testing how boys aged 8 to 12 would react upon finding a gun in a presumably safe situation. All the boys were separated into groups and then placed in a room with a one-way mirror and guns in separate drawers, 2 water pistols, and 1 real .380 caliber handgun. They tested 29 groups, or about 64 boys. The results were this. 48 boys discovered the gun, 30 boys handled it, and around 16 of the boys pulled the trigger, not knowing if it was truly loaded or not. If you think about it, this is the same way that classrooms are set up, groups of around 20 curious students. So worst case scenario, they could somehow get a hold of a teacher's gun and potentially injure themselves or others in the classroom. All things considered, it is a financial burden to try and arm all the teachers, and it makes the classroom a danger zone for teachers and students alike. So take into consideration all the situations that could go wrong before you decide to give your school's educators guns.